When the Galaxy S25 Edge was launched in May, it was kind of confusing. People really appreciated the fact that Samsung was trying to make a super light and thin phone, but they were very concerned about the idea that it didn't have a lot of the features that you would expect from a phone that costs as much as it did, and to get the phone to be that thin, you had to sacrifice a lot of battery life. So, we weren't the only people that said this. If you go on YouTube or any other tech site, you'll see a lot of people saying a lot of the same things, like too thin, or why did they sacrifice the battery life, that kind of thing. So if you look over here in our review on AndroidAuthority.com, we had similar things to say. So right here we have a 3-star review out of 5, and a lot of that came down to the fact that it was just not what you would expect from an $1,100 Samsung phone. There were too many sacrifices. So the thing that was constantly said over and over and over again while this phone was in its release cycle was why? Like, why did Samsung do this? Why did Samsung think that people wanted a phone that was super thin but sacrificed all these things to get there and was super expensive? And well, today we had some news out of South Korea that shows that Samsung might be realizing that this wasn't something that people actually wanted. So over here on a site called The Elect, this is a South Korean news source, based in South Korea. So it's very focused on what's going on in Samsung. Samsung makes up a major part of the GDP of South Korea. So this site basically just really covers a lot of Samsung business news. Anyway, in here you can see that Samsung expected to sell a lot more Galaxy S25 Edge units than it's actually selling, and this is a problem for them. They had to tone down production, and there was a sales quote in here, this word here, nosedive, sales nosedive. So basically, whenever a smartphone comes out, you have about 3 months where sales are pretty steady. There's a giant jump when the phone's released, everybody's buying it, everyone loves it, and then it stays pretty steady for 3 months, slow decline, and then it starts to significantly drop off afterwards. That's just how it goes for pretty much any smartphone that comes out. But Samsung saw this drop, this nosedive, a lot sooner than it was expecting. And this is changing Samsung's attitude towards the future of the Galaxy Edge idea. So if you'll remember, there was a conversation that happened back when the phone was just coming out that Samsung expected, or hoped, I guess I should say, to replace the Plus lineup with the Edge lineup. So just as a refresher, when a Galaxy S phone comes out, you have a Galaxy S, you have a Galaxy S Plus, and then you have a Galaxy S Ultra, where the Plus is kind of like a larger version of the regular one. And this has always been the weakest seller of the three. A lot of people buy the Galaxy S because they want something small, they want something that's not nearly as expensive as the other two, they just want something basic. And then people who want, the real Samsung phone, they go for the Ultra. They spend all the money and they get all the cameras and they get the S Pen and all that stuff. And so the Plus is kind of like this weird in-between phone that some people want just because they want a bigger phone, but most people who want a bigger phone, they get the Ultra. So it kind of exists in this weird spot. What Samsung was hoping was that it could replace the Plus with the Edge. But judging from this news that the Galaxy S25 Edge is doing so poorly with sales, that's probably not going to happen. So we wrote about this, we wrote about all of this on Android Authority. So over here we have the Galaxy S25 Edge sales are going exactly how you expected. That's a tongue-in-cheek headline by my good friend Hadley. And yeah, he just goes over a lot of this information, a lot of the idea that the S25 Edge just isn't selling well, and how that's going to affect future launches of an Edge-style phone. So right here you see that Hadley wrote that this news follows the Elect report last month that Samsung was highly likely to swap the S26 Plus for an S26 Edge model. So now, with this news of the S25 Edge, though, that's probably not going to happen. So this is probably good news for Samsung fans, because I know from writing for Android Authority and reading a lot of comments and seeing a lot of what people who read our site have to say, lots of people love the Plus lineup. They love the idea that they can get a under $1,000 phone that's got a lot of the specs that they want, including that big battery, that large display, and on all that. So I think that if most of our readers anyway, I think that if they were given the choice between an Edge phone or a Plus phone, most would go with the Plus. So the fact that the Edge does not look to be doing well is good news for Samsung fans who don't want to abandon the Plus. So what I want to talk about now is, and I mentioned this a little bit in my video. So if you go to YouTube, go to the main Android Authority channel. Right now you're on Android Authority 2, but if you go to our main Android Authority channel and watch Galaxy S25 Edge video that I made when it came out, a lot of the things that I talked about there are being reflected by the sales dip, I think. The battery life was just not good. It has a smaller battery than what's in the Galaxy S25. So it's as big as the Galaxy S25 Plus, but it's got a smaller battery than the regular Galaxy S25. So that's automatically going to mean that it's going to have worse battery life than the Galaxy S25. So yeah, I mean, no one wants that, And then you talk about the cameras. The main camera here on the Galaxy S25 Edge is a 200 megapixel shooter, and then it's flanked by a ultra wide. There's no telephoto. So this is an $1,100 phone without any telephoto lens. Now, granted, the telephoto lenses that appear on the Galaxy S25 Plus and the Galaxy S25 are really old and not that great, but at least they're there. At least there's something there for you to use when you want to zoom in a little bit and get a little bit closer to your subject and not lose a ton of detail. So the fact that it didn't have a telephoto lens, also, I was like, who asked for this? Why would anyone want this? Now, and then, even with the decision to make the battery so small, the charging speeds are also incredibly slow. It is the same 25 watt charging speed, wired charging speed, of the Galaxy S25. If you remember, the Galaxy S25 Plus and Ultra have 45 watt charging speeds. So that's still not as fast as I would like it to be. For the record, the OnePlus 13 here in the United States charges at 80 watts. So, Samsung's got a lot of room to grow there. But yeah, 25 watt charging speed for an $1,100 phone? Why? What was Samsung thinking? Why did Samsung do this? And the only thing I can think of is that they did some sort of market research and heard that people were talking about how they want their phones to be thinner and lighter. And that makes sense. I mean, if you ever hold a Galaxy S25 Ultra, they are heavy and huge. It's impossible to use with one hand unless you have basketball player hands. It's not the most ideal form factor for a phone, unless you're somebody who really wants all that screen real estate, which obviously the Galaxy S25 Ultra is super popular, so lots of people do want it. But for a lot of people, they want something more compact. They want something smaller and thinner. And the only thing I could think of is that Samsung saw this information and was like, well, let's make something that's thinner. And whatever we have to do to get there is gonna work. And what Samsung doesn't realize, I guess, is that people want things to be thinner and lighter and smaller, but they don't want to sacrifice all the things that they're already used to. And the killer thing here is that the Pixel 9 Pro exists. The Pixel 9 Pro is small. It's relatively compact. It has decent battery life. It's got all the camera features that somebody would want. It's just not super thin and it's not super light, but it's small. So I don't know. I think Samsung just took the wrong approach here. I think if Samsung thought to themselves, hey, we should make a phone that's smaller, more compact, not thinner, not lighter, but just more compact, that might be successful. Because yeah, the Galaxy S25 is small and compact and light and all those great things, but it's also much less powerful. It has a weaker camera system, weaker battery, slower charging, all those things. And I don't know, I think Samsung just went for the wrong thing here. Regardless, it seems like the Galaxy S25 Edge is going to be a dud, and if it is a dud, then that probably means we're not going to see a Galaxy S26 Edge, or at least not an Edge that's like this, where we have what you see here, a super thin and light phone that's missing a camera, has a small battery, and charges really slow, and is super expensive. So I hope that Samsung is seeing the writing on the wall here, and this is the last we'll see of this stuff. But what do you think? Jump down in the comments and let me know. Do you think the Galaxy S25 Edge was a good idea? Are you disappointed that it is apparently not selling as well as Samsung would hope? Are you disappointed that it's not replacing the Plus line? I'm sure there are people out there that love this phone because it is selling, But at the same time, like, I just feel like the majority of Samsung fans and the majority of people who watch videos like these and go to sites like Android Authority don't think it's that great. Jump down in the comments, let me know what you think, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.